Hello my loves, Tony here from TL Yarn Crafts and welcome back to my channel. And as you can tell from the title of this video, your favorite yarn snob is back, baby! Today I'm reviewing yarn from Drops, which is this cute little Norwegian fiber company that you might not have heard of. They have everything from wool to cotton, alpaca, mohair, silk, all at amazingly affordable prices. Now if you want that luxury without the luxury price tag, hit that subscribe button and stick around for this video. I'm reviewing 10 different yarns from Drops today, and each one will get my first impression, likes and dislikes, and a rating from 1 to 10 hooks. Now before we get to all of that fiber goodness, let's pay some bills, starting with today's video sponsor, Bright Sellers. Bright Sellers is a fun subscription service that helps you discover the perfect wine to sip while you're stitching. Start with their 7-question quiz to share your personal taste and preferences. Then the wizards at Bright Sellers handpick bottles just for you and ship them right to your doorstep. My first experience with Bright Sellers was amazing. I mean, you were there. It was in this video right here. I found out how much I love Merlots and how much I crave the taste of fresh fruit in my wines. So I had really high hopes for this box from Bright Sellers and I was not disappointed. The first bottle I opened was a cab from Central California. It was heavy on the fruit and would pair perfectly with a cozy night by the fireplace or a cozy night in front of some Netflix. Honey, I'm not picky. It's so nice to have the perfect wine on hand to pair with that new book or with that exciting series you're gonna watch or even that new project you're gonna start. So stay prepared to set the mood with Bright Sellers. As a special treat from our friends at Bright Sellers, anyone within the sound of my voice who is over 21 can get 50% off their first 6-bottle box. Follow the Bright Sellers link down in the description to take advantage of this amazing deal. And of course, we have to show some love to our Cup of Caffeine sponsor. Today is a sparkling water kind of day because getting 8 cups of flat water in is just never gonna happen. So today's sponsor is Elizabeth, and she said, "I'm a longtime knitter, but just learned to Tunisian crochet from your videos. They were so clear and easy to follow. Also love your yarn review videos. It's so much fun to watch you talk about this craft." Well, Elizabeth, I've got a great video in store for you. Thank you so much for your donation. I really appreciate it. And if you're watching this and want to support my channel, buy me a coffee. Who knows? I might shout you out in my next video. Now let's talk yarn. We're going to work this review methodically, so let's go from thinnest to thickest yarn. We're going to start with Flora. Here we have a rustic single ply yarn made from a blend of 35% superfine alpaca and 65% Peruvian Highland wool. You get 230 yards in the 50-gram skein, and those skeins will run you about $3 each. The strands themselves are 3 plies with a medium twist. Flora's color palette includes 21 shades with a healthy mix of neutrals and mostly primary colors, each with a heathered look from the volume of alpaca. Now in the skein, this yarn feels nice enough. There's a gentle halo which gives it this warm and fuzzy feeling. Once I started crocheting with it though, I experienced those telltale signs of Peruvian Highland wool that always give me pause. Flora has a toothy, somewhat rough quality. Now this is to be expected, nevertheless it's just not a texture that appeals to me. The crochet experience was nice though. I didn't get any splitting, which was a welcome surprise, and the swatch itself felt strong while still being bouncy and flexible. Just keep an eye out for tangles. This yarn is very lightweight and it's prone to knots. I'm gonna give Flora 6 out of 10 hooks. It's a great choice for adding pops of color to a project, but I couldn't imagine working an entire project with it. It's a little too rough for my liking, and the color palette isn't quite enough for me. To make the most of a yarn like this, grab a few skeins for some well-placed color work, or go with a fabric that is airy to accent Flora's natural lightness. I'd recommend my Block Island wrap, which I know would drape beautifully with a yarn like this. Next, let's explore soft and durable Nord, a 4-ply fingering weight yarn that features a blend of 45% alpaca, 25% Peruvian Highland wool, and 30% polyamide, also known as nylon. Each fiber brings something different to the table. The alpaca is known for its softness and amazing drape. Wool adds warmth and stability, and polyamide creates a strong, durable fabric. The 50-gram skein includes 186 yards. Even though the color palette is limited to just 22 colors, they're much more to my liking than I found with Flora. And at $3.19 per skein, you can do a happy dance for all the money you'll save. My first reaction to Nord was a very big yes. This yarn is mostly alpaca and it certainly feels like it, but the other fibers make themselves known as well. Alpaca on its own can feel quite heavy, but the wool added here adds back some of that loftiness and bounce. And the large polyamide content makes this yarn perfect for hard wearing projects like socks and mittens. And while stitching, I did not want to stop. The smooth yarn brushes over your fingers and it's just a delight to work with. The only issue I ran into was just a bit of splitting. The yarn has a soft twist, so the plies can separate a little bit. But once you get into a rhythm, the frequency of splitting really should decrease. Now Nord gets an easy 8 out of 10 hooks for me. I loved working with this yarn and I can see so many applications for it, from shawls and sweaters to hats and gloves. This is a nice fingering weight yarn to keep on hand. The main drawbacks for me are the limited color palette. 22 colors just isn't enough for a yarn this perfect. And there's that pesky splitting issue. It's not annoying enough to avoid this yarn, but anything that interrupts my flow is gonna stand out for me, of course. Now if you want to try your hand at Nord, give it a go with my Westmont shawl. Each stitch will feel like a little hug. Spun from long Egyptian cotton fibers, Safran is a safe place for those looking for an alternative to animal fibers. Each 50-gram ball contains 175 yards of sport weight 100% cotton. The yarn gets its durability from its construction. 2 strands of cotton are plied together, then 6 lengths of those 2-strand twists are plied together. The resulting cotton cord has a rope-like texture, ideal for baby clothes and home decor items. This incredibly thoughtful yarn costs around $1.50 per skein, making this one of the more affordable sport weight cotton yarns on the market. My first impression of this yarn was wow. The colors are rich and even, which is a mark of an experienced company that's used to dyeing cotton. The yarn itself is very pleasant to work with. The rope-like texture is great for achieving stitch definition, and it's exactly what you're looking for with warm weather tops and cardigans. The structured rope is less likely to cling to your skin, making the resulting garment airy and comfortable. The yarn itself has a high twist, so there are no issues with splitting, which is a huge plus when it comes to cotton yarn. You might be surprised to hear this, but I'm going to give Safran 9 out of 10 hooks, which is the highest rating I've ever given a cotton yarn. This yarn has a solution for every issue I normally have with cotton yarn. It's soft, it's vibrant, it doesn't split, and it's machine washable. The resulting fabric has a glow to it, which just pulls you into that summer mood. Experiment with Safran when you make my Merci cloths. They're oversized kitchen towels and they'll shine in any of the 41 colors in Safran's palette. Meet Karisma. Now I'm not going to bury the lead on this one. This yarn was and is still an enigma to me. Before I go into all the ways that this yarn confuses me, let's talk specs. Karisma is a DK weight 100% wool that has been superwash treated, so it is machine washable. The 50-gram skeins have 109 yards and they're offered in 45 colors, running just over $3 per skein. The yarn itself is made of 4 plies with a medium twist. Karisma has the touch of any 100% wool yarn. It's a bit rough at first, but it's also bouncy, and you can imagine how great the stitch definition is going to be. Then I realized that this is superwash wool, which I associate with that next to skin softness. The difference between what I expected and what I was holding in my hands perplexed me. Along those same lines, I was really confused by the hook size recommendation for this yarn. Karisma recommends a 4mm crochet hook, which is much too small in my opinion. If you want any kind of drape in your finished piece, go way up on that hook. I took to the internet to see if other makers had a similar experience with Karisma, and it seems to be a mixed bag. Some reviews on Ravelry mention that this yarn pills quickly and that the gauge changes pretty dramatically with use, while others mention how much the yarn softens with washing and that the absence of knots was a plus. It's a little tough to judge Karisma. I feel like I just don't have a good read on this yarn, and I need a level of predictability to encourage me to reach for it again. I have to give Karisma 4 out of 10 hooks. It's not a personal favorite of mine, but there must be a reason that it's one of Drop's most popular yarns. If you want to give Karisma a go, try it with my Mega Palm beanie, a classic crochet winter hat. Another yarn that did not pass the vibe check is soft soft tweed. This absolutely adorable DK weight yarn is a blend of 50% merino wool, 25% alpaca, and 25% viscose, a plant-based fiber that takes dye well and it holds its shape. Each donut skein is 50 grams, it holds 142 yards, and it costs about $4.50 depending on where you buy it from. The various fibers in this yarn are carded together with tiny tweed neps, then spun and 2 strands are plied together with a loose twist. Of all the yarns in this shipment from Drops, I was most excited for soft tweed. I love the interesting texture, the high volume of luxury fibers, and the mix of colors in the 18 color palette. When it arrived though, soft tweed didn't really hold up to my expectations. Sure, the yarn is soft enough, but that's about where my interest in this yarn stops. The neps give the yarn a thick, thin feel that I'm not drawn to as a crocheter. The crochet experience was nice enough. There was no splitting and the yarn was pretty soft to work with, but the resulting fabric was a bit dense and it had very little drape. Perhaps this is a yarn I would like more after blocking, but I'll be honest, I'm just not patient enough to find out. I have to give soft tweed 4 out of 10 hooks. It just didn't live up to my expectations based on the look and the fiber content. It's certainly not a bad yarn, just not a good fit for the crochet experience I'm looking for. I'm never too proud to say when a yarn seems better suited to knitting, and I think soft tweed is an example of that. But you'll have to give it a try yourself. Consider making my Marlowe hat and scarf with this yarn. I can just imagine how amazing the set would look with those little neps popping out. Here comes Paris, the premier cotton yarn in the Drops collection. Spun from 8 strands of 100% cotton, this classic Aran weight yarn is marketed towards makers for home decor projects and the occasional garment. Each 50-gram ball has 82 yards, and you get to choose from a whopping 51 vibrant, saturated colors. At just $1.25 per skein, you can try the whole collection of colors without breaking the bank. The first win for Paris is how easy it is to find the center pull of the ball. This is often a struggle for me, especially when it comes to cotton yarn, so I have to commend Drops for that victory. I also loved how many plies this yarn has. The high ply count keeps the strands lofty, which is helpful as cotton has a tendency to go flat. Crocheting with Paris was just alright. I didn't experience much splitting, even with the high number of plies in the yarn, and the yarn itself has a middle-of-the-road softness. I don't know, I wasn't especially drawn to it, but there was nothing obviously wrong with it. I was just left a bit uninspired. There's nothing exciting about this yarn, and I'm always looking to work with yarns that I want to rave about. With Paris, what you see is what you get. It's a terribly practical yarn, which sadly means it's unappealing to me. This middle-of-the-road yarn gets a middle-of-the-road rating for me. 5 out of 10 hooks for Paris. It's a great choice for home decor projects with its reliability, large range of colors, and the ability to be machine wash. If you're feeling adventurous, try Paris to make my Camaro crop top. The breathable fabric will make for a perfect choice during festival season. Now, when I say I want a yarn to rave about, I'm talking about a yarn like Big Delight. The entire range of Drops yarn has this reserved, kind of buttoned up feel. Big Delight was their departure into something more fun and interesting, so I had to try it. The 100-gram donut skeins feel massive next to their 50-gram cousins. Each skein has 208 yards of Aran weight, single ply, 100% wool yarn. Big Delight is the heavier version of the original Drops Delight, which is a fingering weight. The Aran weight counterpart features the same magic print technique, lending unique patterning and smooth color transitions in this fun yarn. It's about $7.80 for one skein, but it is worth the splurge. My first attraction to Big Delight, of course, was the color combinations. The shades of pink and purple in Rose Garden felt especially thoughtful, and I was delighted to see the transitions between colors are remarkably subtle. The yarn has the classic wool texture without being itchy, which is a welcome surprise. There's also a faint halo surrounding the yarn, adding to the depth and character of the stitched fabric. The only drawback is that this yarn likes to stick to itself, which is typical for single ply wool yarns. Use a yarn ball winder to cake your yarn before you crochet to avoid this annoying feature. Big Delight is the kind of yarn that you want to make everything with, so I had to give it 9 out of 10 hooks. A yarn like this is easy to love and so fun to work with. I can easily see myself reaching for it again and again when working up accessories, home decor, and even wearable projects. Be sure to snag some fast though. It's in limited supply and looks like it's on the verge of being discontinued. Snag a few skeins and a coordinating solid to make my cadenza wrap. That is, if there's any Big Delight left after I go restock my wool warehouse cart, okay? If you want maximum softness in your life, look no further than brushed alpaca silk. Subtle and shiny Aran weight brushed alpaca silk gets its luxurious feel from a blend of 77% alpaca and 23% silk. It doesn't get fancier than a yarn like this. The 25-gram donut skein includes 153 yards of the good stuff, and it'll set you back $4, which is astoundingly low for similar yarns from other brands. The yarn strand is 2-ply, with one length being silk and the other being alpaca. The overall effect is a halo of squishy softness that is calling you to start a new project. I'll just say it now, crocheting with this yarn was a slight disaster. The 3D construction of crochet doesn't really lend itself to such an airy yarn worked by itself. And Tunisian crochet didn't go much better. The yarn was easier to work with, but the resulting fabric was nearly unusable. Don't blame that on the yarn though. Crocheting with brushed alpaca silk is going to take some planning. The first step is to cake the yarn. It is nearly weightless and it loves to stick to itself. Caking the yarn first allows it to glide a bit easier and will definitely help avoid knots. A complementary yarn will add some structure, while the brushed alpaca silk will take that yarn to the next level. I could easily hold this yarn double with Big Delight to add loftiness to the color changes, or hold it double with Nord for an even more luxurious crochet experience. I'm giving brushed alpaca silk a 7 out of 10 hook rating solely for its potential. I've worked with lightweight fuzzy yarns like this before. For crocheters, these yarns work best when paired with something else. And keep the stitch pattern simple. This yarn shines the most when it's worked into easy patterns like my skyward kerchief. The subtle shaping and mesh stitch work encourages the gauzy alpaca to fill in the spaces. The second to last yarn we're exploring here is called Melody. I've never come across a bulky weight yarn that looked anything like this, so I was immediately intrigued. Melody is ridiculously soft, made from a blend of 71% alpaca, 25% merino wool, and 4% polyamide. The 50-gram donut skein holds 153 yards and costs $6.30, an indulgence compared to other yarns from Drops. If you look very closely, you can see the individual strands of all 3 fibers within the yarn, but the halo of alpaca keeps everything together, so there's no splitting in sight. Choose from 16 colors ranging from warm neutrals to mustard yellow, brick red, and a dreamy deep denim blue. If you've ever wondered what it might be like to hold a cloud, Melody is likely the next best thing. I could feel my endorphins revving up just from squishing this yarn, and crocheting with it is even better. It has a heft that makes it easier to work with in comparison to the brushed alpaca silk I just tried. The substantial wool content means you don't need to hold it with another yarn to get the effect that you're going for. It's much easier to see your stitches, and the yarn moves where you want it to move. The label recommends an 8mm hook, but I went with a 6.5mm, and I'm really glad that I did. I achieved a flexible fabric that's not too holey, and I can already tell that a nice steam block will do wonders for the drape of this fabric. Melody is getting 8 out of 10 hooks from me. The yarn wasn't effortless to work with, but it was easy enough. The project list for a yarn like this is nearly endless. I could see it worked into a double brim beanie, a cozy oversized sweater, or even a dramatic super scarf using all 16 of the colors. Give Melody a try when you make my Omar wrap pattern. You can take this triangle scarf to the next level with the addition of the alpaca in Melody. Last but not least, we have SNOB, a classic single-ply wool yarn. For $2.85 per 50-gram ball, you get 55 yards of untreated roving wool that is slightly twisted and ready for cozy garments or even felting projects. This super bulky yarn is available in 60 gorgeous colors, including classic shades as well as a few multicolored prints. SNOB and other single-ply bulky weight yarns are ideal for beginners because you can achieve large stitches that are easy to work into, and you get near instant gratification no matter what kind of project you're working on. I'm glad to see such a chunky yarn in a small skein for a reasonable price. Drops is really filling a hole in the market by offering a yarn with these kinds of features. Working with SNOB is much like you'd expect. The yarn does like to stick to itself, so consider caking it or just winding it into a ball by hand. The even thickness and color throughout the skein makes this yarn very easy to work with. I didn't have any issues with splitting, and the subtle twist in the yarn makes it easy to grip with my hook. You might be surprised to know that SNOB is extremely versatile. The most obvious project ideas are garments, though you should consider this yarn will pill pretty easily and needs to be hand washed. My go-to projects for a yarn like this are going to be home decor projects or even oversized amigurumi. I'm happy to give SNOB 9 out of 10 hooks. This high rating is mainly based on SNOB being a more reasonably priced option compared to similar yarns on the market. Though not quite as thick as We Are Knitters the wool, it certainly gives the Titan a run for its money. Consider swapping in SNOB for those trendy knit projects and save yourself some pennies in the process. Pick 2 coordinating colors to make my Veronica cocoon a must-have cardigan for the height of winter. So that was a marathon in terms of how my Yarn Snob reviews typically go. I was trying to be really thoughtful in terms of the potential of each yarn, so that meant things took a little bit longer than they normally take, hence the new nails and the new hair. Overall, I was really impressed with Drops, and I haven't even tried their entire collection. They have 37 yarns and I tried 10 today. It really does give me high hopes as I dive deeper into the collection of yarns that are available from Drops. And they don't just stop with the yarns. They also have over 10,000 completely free knit and crochet patterns on their website, all stitched in their yarns. The inspiration is literally endless, so take your time exploring their website and then head over to a site like Wool Warehouse to make your purchase. So here we are at the end of our first Yarn Snob review of 2022. I think we're off to a fantastic start. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, then drop down in the comments and let me know which yarn was your favorite and what you would make with it. I have a lot of very exciting reviews planned for this year and I hope you'll stick around for them. You can also binge all of my product reviews in this playlist right here. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see y'all next time.